Hello, everybody. This is Jaden Bax with Avenue Financial from Crossfield, Alberta, joined as always by my cousin Mike Parkinson of Dominion Lending Centers from Campbell River, British Columbia. How you doing, Mike?
Doing really well, Jay. How are you?
Great. No, we just had a great weekly rate update video that with
Yeah.
a lot of great information. So you guys should definitely check that one out this week of March 15th, 2023. But today we're going to talk a little bit about something that we kind of talk around quite often when we talk about our fixed versus variable conversation. And that's what the penalties actually look like, right? And so
Yeah.
I'm going to share my screen right away here. And maybe we can just jump right into what are the two basic penalties, Mike, that most people will see when they're breaking their mortgage?
The two basic penalties, especially with a fixed rate, is the greater of, and this will be part of your mortgage commitment. And when you do sign your mortgage, whether you ask for it or not, you need to know this. Greater of 3 months interest, or what's called interest rate differential, which is a long, a long calculation that nobody seems to understand. It's complicated, and every lender calculates this a little bit different. So you got to be very careful with it. If you're in a true variable, like a variable rate mortgage, it's typically a 3 month interest penalty. But we've talked a little bit about that. It could be at the posted rate or at the contract rate. So you need to understand the differences between those two as well, because it does make
Yep.
a difference. But let's just talk fixed rates right now. So fixed rates, we're going to talk about the 3 month interest penalty and the interest rate differential, and it is the greater of the two when calculating a penalty. So when you talk to your bank, or find out what the penalty is, or go to the penalty calculators, and every lender has a penalty calculator. If you Google it online and plug in the numbers, it'll spit out roughly what your penalty is going to be. So yeah, 3 month interest is pretty simple. Typically that's when you're like, if you're in a fixed rate right now at 2.5%, and you refinance and you're at 5%, and for the most part, it's probably going to be a 3 month interest penalty if you're going from a low
Yep.
rate to a high rate. But the difference is going to be, we did talk about this on our rate update earlier today, is that let's say you get into a 4.5 or 5% fixed rate right now, longer term, 4, 3, 4, 5 year fixed rate, and you want to break that because rates are now down to 3%. Then you're going to be hammered with a pretty decent size penalty. So it works backwards. If you're going from a high rate to a low rate, typically the penalty is going to be much bigger. And what you're basically doing is you're honoring your contract rate with an interest rate differential. You want to explain it a little bit, Jay?
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the important things to really take into consideration here, when you talk about posted versus contract, that's the biggest thing with an interest rate differential, right? And
Right.
so typically speaking, if you're working with a monoline lender, so those would be, the ones that maybe you haven't heard of before, First National, MCAP, Merrick's, RMG, all these ones that brokers have access to. Typically, they're going to use your contract rate to calculate the IRD. That's kind of one of their selling points, right? Is that their IRD penalty tends to be smaller than the big banks. The banks, on the other hand, if you are, getting that 4.5% interest rate, that's very likely not your contracted interest rate. They're doing it as a discount off of their posted interest rate. So that 4.5% could be 6.25, 6.5% with a 2% discount on it. And the reason that that's given to you, the exact reason for that, is to pump up this IRD. So I'm just going to go down, to the next slide. Like we said, this all changes based on different lenders and things like that. But just a quick scenario, right? So basically, Mike buys a home today, and he ends up having to move. Loves Campbell. Everybody has to move out to Alberta because he can't stand being so far from
Oh
his
no.
cousin. Wants to live the country life and come out on the farm and ride the
Yeesh.
horses. So he
Never.
sells his house. Sells his house 2.5 years from now. He has $300,000 outstanding, owing on his mortgage. And current rates today, we're going to say the posted rate for that fix that's 4.5% is actually 6.54, and the variable rate is 5.8, which is pretty much what most of them are right now. It's prime minus 0.9, so 6.7 minus 0.9. And then at the time of the sale, 2.5 years from now, have gone way down. It's not the posted rate anymore. Now you're looking at the contract of 3.25, and the variable is about, let's say it's about 2.8%, 2.5 years. Now that's kind of, we see that's kind of in the realm of where most rates tend to be between 2.5 and 3.5%. in a normal economy that we've seen over the last several years, eh, Mike? And so,
Yeah.
if you just do that, plug those numbers into the 3 months interest for the variable, you're looking at a penalty about $2,100, which is reasonable. Seems okay. That exact same situation, plugging those numbers into the interest rate differential, for one of the big banks, you're looking at about $25,000 on a $300,000 mortgage owing. That is a significant difference. And this is just throwing numbers that I actually think are conservative and reasonable out there. Um, and to see the difference, we're looking at more than 10 times more for the interest rate differential. And so I guess the big thing there is one of the main components, and I don't know if everybody saw it here with interest rate differential. There's several different components to it, but one of the main components is number of months left until maturity, right? And so if you're looking at a 5-year fixed with what we would consider high rates right now, you're starting from 60 months left until maturity and going down from there. Whereas if you started at a 3-year, you're 36, a 2-year, 24, you're already kicking down that interest rate differential a little bit, right? So that's why when we talk about now, in our opinion, is not the time to get locked into a 5-year fixed. It's not that you're going to be paying more interest over the next 5 years, which we believe you will. We don't have a crystal ball, but we do believe you will. It's that this calculation on that 5 years, starting from 60 months left until maturity, really gives a long time of opportunity for you to be paying a significant IRD, doesn't it, Mike?
Yeah, and this is based on 300 grand too. And again, these numbers aren't exact; they're just
No.
approximations. We're giving you an illustration to show you the difference. That there's more to a mortgage than the best rate that you think is happening today, right? It's about planning. It's about coming up with strategies. So if you blow that $300,000 mortgage up to 500,000-600,000, that penalty is going to explode, right? Like I've seen in my 20 years of brokering, I've seen penalties 50, 60,000 with mortgages less than that because people were into such higher rates when rates were higher a long time ago. They were into B mortgages that they're trying to break. And like, so it's just everything. We're getting back to the thing that every mortgage is different. You just need to understand it. So please talk to your lender and your broker who you're working with and just find out and say, hey, what would the ramifications be if I can't port this mortgage, or if rates drop and I want to take advantage to save money. Many times it's not worth paying the penalty because it's just too big, right? So, and a lot of people don't have the equity in their homes to do that. They don't have the cash to
Yep.
do that. So it's just coming up with these strategies. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense to really come up with a plan based on what you think where the market's heading. So.
Yeah, and so if you don't have a plan, if you're thinking of selling, or if you are buying right now and considering the fixed versus variable side of things, give Mike a call in BC, call me in Alberta, or if you're anywhere else in the country, we're happy to take that call and discuss things with you. I'm talking to a lot of people from Ontario right now who are thinking about moving out to Alberta, or getting a rental out here. So we're always happy to work with anybody. And just we're happy to go into the numbers, like Mike said. This is just an example of something, but I hope that it got through to everybody today that there's the ability with the difference between these two to have a very significant penalty if you make poor decisions up front.
Yeah, when your bank's sending you your renewal and it just shows you a 5-year fixed or a 5-year variable, there's way more options. So
Yep,
that's when you got to pick up the phone and give us a call. We're happy to just give you our opinions and discuss things with you.
absolutely. Well, thanks so much, everybody. Good to see you this week. Great to see you, Mike, and we'll see you all next week.
Sounds good. See you, Jay.